Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church in Columbia, South Carolina, where we're part of the ELCA. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. It is perhaps my favorite story to tell, and it's true. To be a Lutheran pastor, one of the requirements that needs to be fulfilled before ordination is that you have to complete 1 unit of CPE, Clinical Pastoral Education. CPE is typically done in a hospital where you take on the role of chaplain, but it can also be completed in a mental hospital, a prison, and more, anywhere that has a role of chaplain. The point of CPE is not learning how to visit in the hospital. No, the point is the reflection on your visits that you have with your peer group. The topic of examination is you. How you yourself got in the way of authentically serving and listening and caring for the other person. You learn how your own agenda shapes your responses and how to get yourself out of the way for God to act through you. It's important. I tell you all that to say I did my CPE here in Columbia at the State Hospital, which was a mental health facility. I chose that because I had little experience with mental health issues, and beyond the normal CPE learnings, I could also learn something about mental health. One of the things we learned was that theories of how to treat mental illness have changed over the years. At one time, they believed that sunlight was important to treating mental illness. So there is one building on the campus designed by a famous architect that is shaped so that every room in the building gets direct sunlight at some point each day. In the early days, it was thought that the best thing to do with mentally ill people was to hide them away from the rest of society. So when the state hospital was built, they constructed a 10-foot high brick wall surrounding the entire campus. If you passed by, you knew what was on the other side of that wall, but you couldn't see in, and the patients couldn't see out. Then theories changed, and it was decided to take down the wall. They used the patients to tear down the wall and clean the brick. What a beautiful image. Because you see, as they took down the brick wall, the patients also began taking down the walls of their mental illness. And it is during this time that the hospital recorded the greatest rate of cure in its history. Then they took the brick from the wall and they built the chapel for the campus, naming it the Chapel of Hope. You can still see the chapel from the road, and nearby is a small section of the wall still standing as a reminder. Hope is a powerful thing. Nevertheless, hope is a little difficult to define. It can be a vision, a dream, even a wish. This week, I guess I hope to define hope a little bit by looking at the stories of some women from the Bible who lived and expressed hope in their situations. Today, we want to begin by looking at a woman from the Bible named Rahab. Rahab is certainly a heroine in the Bible, but if we had lived in Jericho at the time, we would have called her a traitor. As the Exodus drew to a close and the Hebrew people were drawing near to the Promised Land and about to enter it to possess it, the first obstacle they would encounter was the walled city of Jericho. Jericho would need to be conquered for their first foothold in the Promised Land. So Joshua sent 2 spies to Jericho to assess the defenses and the mood of the inhabitants. There's nothing in the Bible that indicates there was anything untoward happening in the story, but I always find it amusing that after 40 years in the wilderness, these 2 guys hit town, and the first place they go is to the home of a prostitute. Perhaps they thought this might be the best place to get a sense of what the people were feeling about the approaching Hebrew people. Many scholars think there may have been as many as 600,000 Hebrews, so their approach to Jericho had certainly been noticed. It's also possible that these two men thought that by going to a prostitute's house, they might escape notice by the authorities. The prostitute's name was Rahab, but it wasn't long before someone reported to the king about two strangers arriving at her house, and the king sent soldiers to bring them. But Rahab hid the Hebrew spies under some bundles of flax on her roof and lied to the soldiers seeking them that they had come, but they had left. She sent the soldiers on a wild goose chase to search for them. Once the soldiers were gone, she brought out the spies and told them to go the opposite way, hide out for 3 days, and then go back to their people. She said, "All the townspeople have seen how God has watched over you and saved you, and we are well aware that we cannot stand against your God." Then, because her house was part of the city wall itself, she let the spies down through the window to escape. Before she did, she elicited a promise to them that they would spare her family when the battle happened, and they marked what house to keep safe by hanging a red rope from the window. That was the sign not to kill anyone in that house. When the spies returned to Joshua, they told him that the victory was assured. "They are afraid of us and of our God," they told him. Amazingly, when it is all said and done, when Jericho's walls have fallen and Israel has the victory, Rahab and her family are saved, and she is allowed to marry into a Hebrew family. That's stunning, because the rules were clear that they were not to intermarry with local Canaanites. An exception was made in her case. Rahab had hope for God's mercy. One of the things she said to the spies was, "The Lord your God is indeed God in heaven above and the earth below." She didn't have her hope in the city walls or the might of her people. Rahab hoped in God. Here's the kicker in the whole thing. If you look at the genealogies of Jesus in the Gospels, those lists of ancestors to Jesus that indicate he had the right lineage to be the Messiah, and included there, you find Rahab. Rahab was a member of Jesus' line, a foreigner, and a prostitute to boot. When we think of Jesus becoming one with us, he is one with all of us. No matter who you are, no matter what you have done, you have part in Jesus. We'll never know, but I like to think that when the walls of Jericho fell, Rahab's house still stood. It was a monument to hope in God. Thanks for sharing these moments with me, and remember to let this day belong to God.